All right, I am excited to introduce to you guys one of my mentors, Mr. Mike Southerland. Mike is the founder and CEO of a GPS telematics business called Link and Locate.tech. For Mike is probably one of the most adaptable, hardworking, professional, cancer survivor, blood um, blood disease survivor. You're probably one of the most professional salespeople that I have ever been around. You're somebody who has made a tremendous impact in my life, and I'm really excited to have you here. So, Mike, welcome.
Well, thank you very much, and I appreciate that kind words. You and I have a history from a decade ago doing GPS
Yep.
in the southeastern United States, and it was extremely successful. And then we both went different directions. And it is my pleasure and honor to have
Mhm.
you reconnected so that we can go after a new industry, which is Bluetooth. And Bluetooth has emerged tremendously recently. If you look at a car you buy, they've all got Bluetooth in them. You look at, like I've got hearing aids and they got Bluetooth in them. I mean, everything is just coming to Bluetooth because it's inexpensive, it's fast, it's accurate, and it's global.
Yep.
Meaning, when we have GPS, we have to go get um, agreements with phone companies and things like that. And with this, we don't because it used crowdsourcing, which is where all of the Androids or all of the Apple devices, which each one has 3 billion plus out in the world. And basically, this means that if you leave your keys in the train station in Russia and you get on the plane, you get back and you go, uh-oh, I don't have my keys. You just put in that it's lost, and instantly people walk by and they don't know that they're letting you know your keys are there, but you keep getting these messages that it's a train station. I mean, it's just the technology is amazing. It doesn't matter if you're in Brazil, whether you're in Russia, whether you're in Louisiana or Mexico or whatever, that works globally. So the application, our palette is massive.
Yeah.
And I know the job that you did before, putting people on, going out and hustling, you can do it again. And this is just a huge opportunity for both of us in this particular case because Bluetooth is going to expand in such a way over the next 4 to 5 years that we have no idea. I mean, it's just easier for the manufacturers to do that, whether it's medical, whether it's automotive, marine, RV, home care. All of these applications are applicable to one device. And this one device, we've got approval for a single device with Apple and Google where we're native to them, meaning if it sees our device, your Apple phone or your Android phone, it says, this is one of our products because we passed their test, put their ID inside of our device, and it's just a matter of holding a phone up and it goes together with it. So this industry, whether you choose cars or whether you choose RVs or power sports or marine, because you got a big marine industry down there. I mean,
Yep.
all of these oil well boats and everything that constantly going out in the ocean. I mean, there's just a lot of things that can help. This can help, and it's inexpensive compared to a GPS. Do you have any comments that you'd like to make on that?
Well, I think that was the reason why I wanted to have this talk. I think as we're watching the world evolve with AI and realizing that we're having some of these tools that I can only imagine if you would have had some of the tools at your disposal 50 years ago when you started this business, things would probably be a lot different than they are today. I mean, take
Oh
us
yeah.
back to when you first started in this business. And I know you were with Ford at one time. You were in the service contract business through Easy Care at one time. You've been in the automotive space literally when Noah was building the ark. I mean, not that old, but you know what I mean.
I get it. I
And
get what
so,
you're saying. And it was 99 when I first got in the GPS business, and we were analog and it
mm,
was cheap. And
mm,
then we switched to digital and the price went way up. but so did all the benefits. In other
Yeah.
words, we picked up all kinds of things that we never knew we could do when we went to the digital. Well, the same thing is happening with the Bluetooth. It's going from what was basically a, a narrow channel to a global channel in just a few years. So if I'd have had something like this back then, I can't even imagine what we could have done. But I do
Yeah.
want to add one thing. When you take our product, we are manufacturing. We own plastic, firmware, software, and the global rights to this product. It's not a white label. We didn't take somebody else's idea. This is ours. And Pablo and Alex, they took the time to find out what was out there with the other industries and products and built on top of that. In other words, it's not, well, I got one, you got one, they're similar. They're not similar. And they're not going to be similar because we already have version 2 and 3 in the drawing schedule. And they started Monday on version 2, mapping the time, the cost, everything that's involved with it. So, I mean, it's exciting because we can expand so quickly and we can expand there's no wall. There's nothing to stop us from going anywhere. So if you got some friend that you were having lunch with and he says, well, I'm in the home care medical business and I need to know where these things are. And I have to send people out to their houses to see that they still have the machine there. And with this thing, you can press a button and boom, 5 seconds, you've got the inventory for the whole amount, all your equipment that's out there. And it's inexpensive. Where GPS, which is a great product that we have, but the GPS is much more expensive because we're paying for airtime and all those things with the phone companies. We're here, we don't do that. It's all crowdsourcing. So,
So I know,
it's
well, you and I have been together for, matter of fact, I first met you 25 years ago, and I
yes,
know we were doing business back then. And if I can remember correctly, I can remember selling GPS devices for literally $300 back then.
yes.
We were charging airtime, way more than we charged at this time. And so, the goal in the industry was always to get it to a lower price, to make it more affordable, to get it to the masses. And I think at some level we've seen that over the last 20 years. But you have been so in tune with this thing and so connected that you saw what was transitioning to be able to get this to everybody. Dealers, new car franchise dealers. I know there's been some friction between the new car dealer at some level being able to have a GPS tracking device on every asset. And now with this industry moving to where it's moving today, how has that changed? How has that affected the dealers? And what can the dealers actually take advantage of now that something like this is in the market that's never been there before?
Okay. The things that are going to evolve over time, not because we want them to, but because it's just a natural path, which is you got a dealer who's paying, let's just say, $150 for a GPS. He can find a car with a $59 device. And my concern is that eventually some guy's going to walk in and offer that to a dealer who's got, 1,000 cars on the lot at 150 and say, I can do this for 59. I'm not saying we want to do that because you make better money on a GPS than you do one of these things. $59, you're obviously not paying a huge commission. So evolution, whether we like it or not, is coming to Bluetooth. Things that you pay, like, for example, you have a headset on and it's wired, okay? That costs more than one that's not wired. So again, cost savings come with Bluetooth, big cost savings. So, and again, it's global, so it doesn't matter where I go. If I steal something of yours and take it to Guatemala with Bluetooth, I can find it. It
Yeah.
doesn't, and we had to build 2 systems though. We have the global system, which is all of the devices, the 3+ billion of Android and the 3+ billion of Apple. And that when it's in consumer mode, which when it leaves the dealership, it goes into consumer mode. Well, it acts just like an AirTag or just like a tile or those things. But they don't offer the things that we do in the dealer mode. So we had to build an app that gives you desktop, has a scanner to scan the device into your system with the car. It has a 3-year battery, which most of them in the marketplace are either rechargeable or 1 year. And one of our fears was the rechargeable, that we sold it to you and the battery started going down in the 4th, 5th, or 6th month. And somebody calls you up and you got 1,000 of them out there and says, "Hey, Eric, are you going to come over and take all these out of the cars and plug them into a phone somewhere and wait till they're charged and then plug them back in?" We didn't want that. So Pablo was fortunate enough to find a 3-year battery situation, which was part of the chip that we bought. And the equipment we put in there lowered the consumption of the battery. So there are people using the same battery we're using and getting just up to a year, where we're getting up to 3 years
Hmm.
because of the components that we put in here. Excuse me. So, you know, it's just changing everything that we look at out there. You can think about televisions. The same thing happened with televisions. I mean, the little tiny screens, and as time evolves, now we've got these screens that look like you're in the middle of the stadium when you're watching them. So you have to stay on top of it. And that's exactly what we're doing. Again, version 2 and version 3, or version 2 is in process. Version 3 is on the drawing board, and they're all coming within the next 12 months. One of them 6 months from now, one of them 12 months from now. So
All right, let's
keeping
talk a
you up.
little bit. Let's talk a little bit about, like, maybe not everybody understands what we're saying when we call it Bluetooth tracking technology. Um, we are, and what you guys have built, very similar to what an AirTag device is. Those devices work on Bluetooth to where it's constantly looking for a signal to be able to locate itself without requiring any sort of airtime that's going to be based upon some sort of cellular signal, which means that you got to pay additional monies. This is like an AirTag that is constantly reaching out for something. I know your devices are like almost 1,000 feet from the actual
Mhm.
device it can pick up, which is greater than most industry standards, which you built it heavy
Yes.
duty that way for those purposes. But also, those things are capable of being put into a vehicle, put on keys. I know that you and I were talking about putting them in the service departments and seeing how they can create new efficiencies for service departments inside of dealerships by beating the clock, because this can help you manage time with technicians. So there's a lot of applications for these things, and it's not just strictly the automotive space. It's also other industries as well. So can we look at maybe some of the ways this works and how it could be beneficial to whether or not it's automotive dealers or even other applications for this?
Okay. I gave you an example earlier, which was people with home care medical equipment. It's very expensive. And I tried to get into that business 4 years ago, and they don't want any wires. They don't want anything to be charged because a patient or the family's not going to do it. And they didn't want to consume anything on the Wi-Fi. So what happens with this is we get away from all of that when we're in home care. In other words, I said you could press a button and see where all of your home care instruments are. Or if you're in the boat business, we actually tracked in a manufacturer in, I think it was Memphis, from the fiberglass all the way through to it going on a trailer. And what happened with this Bluetooth was when they put the windshield in, it knew it was in the windshield section. When it put the drive shaft in, the motor in, every stage that it was going through, it was reporting. And when it got on the trailer, what was really interesting is the dealer said, "Well, how about outboard motors?" So we put it inside of an outboard motor, and it tracks it, because you know what they do in the middle of the night. They come up in a boat, unhook it, take it in a boat, and drive off with it. This prevents that. So
Mm.
that was an example. And then one of the things you can read about in the industry is this is the most popular inventory control, whether we're talking about suitcases, whether we're talking about Gucci purses. I mean, there's so many things that cost so much money, and you can, because of its size, I'm going to hold this one up here. I mean, this is it. I mean, you can see my hand. So it's easy to put into things. I mean, if you're talking about cars, you can put it in headrest, you can put it in seats. I mean, there's a lot of places. In a purse, it can be hidden in a purse. It can be in items that you ship. Now, this is another interesting deal, because usually when you ship something, it checks in at the airport, somebody scans a barcode, it goes into a room to be put on a plane, but after it gets scanned, nobody knows what happens to it till it shows up at the next place and somebody scans it, well, it's here. Now, from that point, nobody knows where it is. The customer calls up and says, where's my equipment? And the guy goes, well, it shipped from here an hour and a half ago. Well, that goes away with this because you know where it's going all the time. So shipping, inventory, I mean, I could sit here all day and talk about things that it applies to.
Well, that's the more we've learned about this and the more we've talked about this, you start finding out how many real applications to be able to track things that are assets to the client, whether or not it's shipping needs. I know from my quick story, but my dad went on vacation and because of the weather, planes got moved all over, delays everywhere. So he ends up in Dominican Republic to go play in a Pro-Am golf tournament. Of course, he's got no golf clubs. He's got no suitcase. And what's crazy is the airline lost his bags and they didn't know. And so, of course, I told my dad about these things. And so he puts them on everything. And so he was able to tell the airline company where his bags were, which called that location, put the bags on the next plane. They got their bags on Thursday morning, but they were able to use it. And they won second place in the Pro-Am golf tournament, Dominican Republic. So we know the technology works. We know one of the things that I'm really excited about and wanting to understand is you guys have taken this thing, and for most people that figured out that this could be very useful for commercial applications, one of the problems that everybody talked about was that you're limited on how many of these quote unquote Bluetooth tracking devices that you can put on different app type things. And one of the things, because of your background being in the GPS tracking business for so long, because you and I have been doing this forever, we have them on all of our vehicles, is that you were able to take a commercial grade software with a hardware product that you built with more strength and more tech and combine those to now anyone who is wanting to use these things to manage them, you now have a full-blown software, mapping software. You can look at them moving on a map. You can see them actually where they're located. You could create geofences to protect them. I know for dealership groups who store inventory at different locations but don't want to put things into vehicles and mess with wiring issues and all the things that come with it, this becomes like a no-brainer product just to stick inside of every single asset, whether or not it's a dealership, a boat, any sort of industry that makes sense, right?
Well, if you ordered a $6,000 TV, some special equipment or whatever, you can throw one of these in there and know where it's at all the time. There is no question about where it is. Did it get lost? Now, the other thing, and you brought this up, when we did this, because the dealer automotive community is what we know and what we've been in the longest, so therefore we have the most contacts in that. So they're familiar with GPS. They know all the screens, how they all work. So all we did was take all the GPS screens and model them for the Bluetooth. So if you look at a Bluetooth screen, it's got the ones on the lot, off the lot, one's violated the fences, one not reporting. I mean, all of that stuff so that when the dealer got it, the dealer said, oh, this is easy. I know how this works. I mean, it's just a different device using the same screens at a much lesser price. So now another thing that we did that's really important, we tried a device 2.5, 3 years ago, and it was disappointing. And one of the things that bothered me was the device that you buy in January of 26 or February of 26 is the same in February of 27, February of 28, February of 29, meaning I'm still using this thing. It's almost like a lifetime, but you can't say that because the lifetime rules vary by state. Okay, some states you can use it, some have different versions of it. So with this, all you're doing is taking the battery out after 3 years, putting another one in, and I'll show you. I mean, you can find these anywhere. They're all over the place. So then it goes for another 3 years. In other words, there's no airtime that's going to expire that you're going to get billed for. So you could use this for 10 years just by changing the batteries.
So one question that I know if anybody's listening to this, they got a question. I'm sorry for interrupting, but The
Go ahead.
question that they are asking is that there has been some identity issue legal laws that you have to play by, right? So you can't just sort of have a device that's sort of on an open network trying to find something because it's going to tell whoever it's next to that device is trying to find a home. But you guys in your software are able to connect that so you don't have the same problems that some of these guys in the industry haven't figured out, correct?
Okay, what you're addressing is part of what you're addressing is your wife goes somewhere and somebody drops one of these in her purse. They can follow
Yes.
her. Well, there's a federal law now that says every device has to say there's another device following you. In other words, you're going to know immediately. Okay. So that was one thing. And then the encryption that we bought the best chip that we could find. And the encryption was one of the main reasons so nobody can break it. So we didn't want somebody calling up and going, well, this dealer's stuff is all over the place. And by using this particular chip in our software, you can't do that. So, and I want to go back to this over the air updates, which I talked about a minute ago, which was what you buy in February of 26 is the same in 27, 28, 29. But we put over the air updates. And I'm going to use this as an example. This is an Aura medical ring. I bought it maybe 11, 12 months ago. It's had like 12 updates on it. And what that means is for the people using our devices, what they bought in February can have all the new stuff added to it in March,
Mm,
July, December. So as this device evolves, so does yours, even though you bought it 2 years ago or a year ago. And that's big. And God forbid we have an issue, which, you can buy a phone and have an issue that you paid
of course.
$1,300 for.
Of course.
We can now go in and correct that over the air. Now, what's important about the over the air with us is you don't have to take it and plug it in somewhere and do it. It automatically, when you get in range, boom, it just does the update that's sitting out there. So it's not manual, it's automated. And those are
Yeah.
big things for the dealer and the consumer.
So we recognize that there's obviously plenty of opportunities to manage assets with it. But one of the areas that I get really excited about the more I think about, because I've been involved in fixed operations, I've been involved with the mechanics, and it's such a vital part of the automotive industry today. The sales aspect of the business keeps evolving and changing, and who knows where it's going to be at soon. But the reality is, servicing vehicles and in that service department, that's not going to change for a while. And it's such a foundational part. This device, and you're working with some dealers that I know out of Alabama really well and very closely, and y'all are putting in or rolling out something that I'm more excited about what that offers for the fixed operations divisions of dealerships than anything. Can you tell us a little bit more about what you're
Sure.
going with that?
This device has multiple functions. We just changed the software because everything is made to adapt to something else. So for a service department, this hangs from the rearview mirror. And as the vehicle goes through the shop, it says, wait a minute, you're supposed to be in lube oil and filter, and you're sitting outside, which we've all set somewhere in a dealership, checked in at 8 o'clock, gave them the keys. They parked the car. It's 9:15. You look out the window and you go, holy, my car's outside. So what this is a tattletale. And as it moves through the shop, it goes by lube oil and filter, and it's supposed to be in there, and it's reporting. But where does it report? That's the key. It sends the service writer, the service manager, and the owner, if you want, this
Mm,
notification in real time that, hey, it's behind schedule. In other words, it was supposed to be done by 10. It's now 10:45. We've reported 3 times. But the best one is the one they push out back because
mm,
they either don't have the part or they don't have the time or the mechanic's not there. And it sits out there with a little hat on top, a yellow hat with a 5 on it. And nobody's walking out there every hour and going, why are these out here? So this thing is screaming. It's reporting, constant reporting. It's bugging these people that are listed on here that you have an active RO idle in the back that was supposed to be done today, and it's in its second day outside.
mm.
It shouldn't last more than an hour outside before somebody goes, oh, let's get out there and find out what's going on. Excuse me. Another area is parts.
Mm.
Sometimes a customer will come in to get their car done. The service writer says, "Good, we'll get it. We'll get it fixed. Take about 4 or 5 hours." They stuff it in the stall, and they go to parts, and the parts man says, we don't have that part. So now somebody's got to run across town to a similar make and model to see if they have the part, which they'd call first. And if they don't, they have to order it. And now we're delaying not only hours, but days. So
Yeah.
it tells on parts inventory. It tells, hey, some people have mechanics that are really good, but they're slow. I got 10 mechanics, 8 of them are turning the hours I want, and 2 of them aren't, but they're good. But they spend a lot of time on the phone. They smoke. You can't smoke in the building. They're outside all the time. Or they have problems at home and they're constantly, I mean, it just tells you the
Yep.
speed of everything going on in real time. And I've talked to some service says, I'm on top of everything. But when you get into it, you can't be on top of every RO every
Nope.
minute of the day, which these things are on a big screen. Everybody can see where they're at and what they're doing. I mean, it's going to make a big difference in money and time to a dealer. A dealer who can write 50 ROs a day can now write 65 to 70 ROs a day. And at 250 to 450, depending on where they're at, if you're writing that many more a day times 22 days a month times 12 months, we're talking huge money. We have charts to show. So it's rewarding for them.
Well, I actually want to talk a little bit about that if you happen to have any of those charts with you, just easily talking points. But I think for most people to understand what you're speaking of, we've been in the fixed operations business for a long time through service contracts, and I've even managed different service operations. And so the trick is always going to be to beat the clock. And the most successful technicians we have, the reason why they're successful is because they can do more in less time. So they can take on more projects to make more money. And so you always have those techs, but the problem is they're never the majority. They're always the minority. So this product, what I love, it brings everybody up to that speed, because now you have something that could potentially hold these guys accountable from doing those things. Because like it's which we were saying before, I mean, you can't stop somebody from going outside and smoking cigarettes. You can't stop them from
Yeah.
wanting to clear their head and go watch something on YouTube. I used to be one of those guys that would just like ponder and watch these technicians and go crazy because you want to say, get back in there. We need a, and these things are like this silent little thing in the background, just reminding that service manager, reminding that technician that you're on a clock and this thing can hold you accountable. And when you start really running these numbers, because you and I did this, you take a dealership service group who is punching X amount of service ROs, and you
Yes.
figure out a way to increase that by a factor of 10%, because all of a sudden this thing's telling guys to like, hey, come on, guys, we need to hurry this up. There's no wasting time. And you move that needle by a factor of 10%. And you have one of these dealership groups that are punching 1,000, 2,000 ROs a month. All of a sudden you start looking up and you start saying, all right, if we're doing 100 more ROs, if we're doing 200 more ROs, if your average RO is $250 times, all of a sudden you start looking at those numbers. We've crossed over $1 million in additional revenues by increasing someone's business by a factor of 10 or 20%, right?
Yeah, you can take a dealership writing 100 ROs a day, and I'm going to give you an example. This guy who his numbers are bigger, but he said, I can't do any more business. I'm maxed out in my shop. But he says, but looking at this thing, I can become more efficient and I can get more ROs written during a month
That's good.
because of this accuracy in this thing, that it'll make me more money. The 100 ROs at a 20% increase was $1.44 million increase.
Mm.
Now, that's what I want to sit down with Eric, the parts and service director, or whoever is interested in this, and say, if you don't have to hire any more people, if you don't have to put any more lifts in, you don't have to build a new building, and I take and maximize what you've got and can give you between 700 and 1.4 million, obviously depending on the number of ROs. For example, I know that in one city they're 400 and some odd dollars per RO, and in another city they're 250. So the numbers are up and down depending on, again, the area. but it's a no-brainer. I mean,
Hmm.
and people try to say, well, I'm on top of everything. Well, how can you possibly be on top of all these things? I mean, there's other softwares out there, but this thing is following a car
Hmm.
every second, every foot.
Well, I
You know,
love the
it's
fact that, listen, in business, one of the things that we have to learn how to do is increase cash flow, increase equity, and lower operational expenses as we try to grow our businesses. The reality is if you're going to do more business in the service department, you're going to need to hire more technicians or build more stalls. But with this type of product, what you just said is exactly true, that this is a way with a very small investment to be able to increase your cash flow, increase your ROs without having to hire more techs, without having to add more stalls. And all of a sudden it becomes straight to the bottom line numbers if you have a dealer that really jumps on board and sees the value of this thing.
Let me give you an estimate of, if somebody writes 50 ROs a day, obviously I need 50 of these, right? At
Yeah.
$59. That's one segment, okay? But we keep some overnight for sometimes we can't help it. So I actually need to give you 75. So you have an extras in case you have a big day or whatever. And then you don't reorder these. These are going with the cars when they leave, but you could sell them, but that's not the point in this. This is an
Right.
efficiency tool.
Yeah.
It's not a profit center from a piece of plastic.
Yeah.
So you buy these and you just keep reusing them. Maybe somebody drops one down a drain. Maybe somebody runs over it with a car and smashes it. Then you'll have to replace it. But this is not a big investment. I don't know what 59. Hold on. Let me just do a quick deal here. Hold on. 59 times 75 of these is $4,425. So I want to sit down with Eric and say, for $4,425, I can get you roughly $700 some odd dollar increase at the end of the year by the increase in ROs. That's a 20%. And somebody may say, well, I can't get 20% more. You don't know till you try.
Yep. Well, I think that's one of the reasons why I get so excited about what you're doing with this. I know that this has been something that you've been working towards. You've been doing this for a very long time. One last thing before we leave this space of talking about this product is you brought it up about selling the product to the end user, that the service department, that's not what this is for. This is for efficiency
Right.
purposes. But when
Yes.
you say that, you and I have talked about this before, and the idea is just like a vehicle would get checked into the system and go through the PDI process. You're going to put on etch, you're going to tint the windows, you're going to add the ad valorem to it, whatever you're going to do to the thing. You could do the same thing by adding this product to the vehicle at the time. I know you've made it easy. You've created these solutions to click the thing and scan the vehicle, scan the VIN. It immediately plugs in with a couple extra clicks so you can add it at that time. And now you have a product that's inside of the vehicle that is connected to the software. So therefore now it's in the vehicle on the properties. And let's just say that vehicle sells, and all of a sudden there's that device that's in the vehicle. What happens next? How does this thing get turned over to the retail consumer? Can the dealer charge for it? Can the F&I departments make
Okay.
money off of it?
All right. The issue here is, first, the dealer says, well, how do I get my money back? In other words, I'm paying $59 for it. How do I get it back? Well,
Yep.
depending on states, you can put it in the sales price like we have for years with certain stripes and all these other things. You can put it in a dock fee. There are some states, Florida being one of them, is like a $1,200 or $1,500 you can jam into dock fees, which is amazing. Or you can we'll put it in the price, put it in the dock fee, or you can put them on an addendum on the windshield. So those are the three ways they put it in there. Now they can put it in there at $59, or they can put it in there at $159. In other words, the dealer can put it in there at whatever amount they want, maybe make an extra $100 plus get back their initial investment. And we're not talking about the profit they're making. So at the time of sale, what happens is, thank you for buying from Eric Chevrolet. Because you're a good customer, we're going to give you this device. So if you ever misplace your keys, you can find them. So at that point, we don't want to sell it to the dealer, the device, because we charge $59. You can go buy an AirTag for $80, I think, at Costco or something like that. So we want at that point to give them a policy of reimbursement. That's what you sell in F&I. But you gave them the keys. The dealer recouped his price, made some profit. Now we sell them the upsell, which is if something happens, we'll replace them up to $2,000 on certain cars, up to $800 on other cars, the keys, because it costs that much on high-end cars.
Yep.
And we will pay for lodging, we'll pay for a key truck, we'll pay for meals, towing. In other words, it's a typical road policy so that people understand, and dealer can make more profit there. So every car that gets delivered gets these with it, which also means that you as an agent or as a dealer are getting an opportunity to, you buy more to replace those, okay? So you're making more profit. You're not taking it off the car, taking it to the next one and scanning it in. I mean, no, these go through to the consumer so that it's a profit center. But I want to stress one thing. This is efficiency tool, whether we're talking about service, whether we're talking about keys, because there's salesmen running all over the place trying to find keys. They can't. Customer gives up and leaves, and that's a bad number. And I didn't mention this either. Can you imagine what this does to CSI?
Oh,
customer service reports when, well, I tried to buy something and it didn't work out, or they told me the car be ready in 4 hours. It was ready in 4 days. I mean, all that stuff, we're increasing their CSI report with the factory or whoever's running it. And that's all good. More points, more cars.
I like that because you said something about the keys, and I think that's really been a big deal because the vehicles, in our business, we have a rental car company, and these keys now, we just bought a bunch of 26 inventory. I mean, these keys are more sophisticated today and do more gadgets. I mean, these things replacement cost $200-300, and if not way more, right, on some luxury high-end vehicles. But it seems very normal that a consumer would love to have these things on their keys because actually y'all's product, doesn't it do more things? Can't you, like it has a light on it that you've added to these devices? You've added other.
Let me address that. That's a crucial point. This car, the keys are between the seats. I can't find them. So it has a flashing LED light and a buzzer. So if it fell under the car, between the seats, in your couch, it's in your pocket of your coat, hanging next to your desk. It's going, hey, beep, beep, beep. I'm over here in a flashing light. If it's at night and it's in a dark place, this LED light, you'll see it for sure. So, that again, these are things that are important to the consumer as well as the dealer. So this is a benefit that's on both sides of the fence when you talk about these LED and the noise that comes out of them to alert you to the loss.
Well, I think the biggest, it does. I think the biggest issue that I remember being in the business is that nothing has changed since then. I remember one of our companies, we were selling those key machines for $20,000 back in the day. I don't know how much they cost now because we don't buy those machines.
Probably 7 to 12, but I don't know.
Jesus, our wood boards with some pegs from Lowe's works just fine.
Can't have those anymore. Your garage keepers company won't allow you to have pegs with keys hanging on.
But let me tell you something. Having those things on every single one of these keys allows us to never lose a key no matter what. Because how many times it goes into the detail department? How many times is the detail? The other day we were cleaning out a mop bucket and there was 3 sets of keys inside of the water, inside of a dirty mop bucket. The mop bucket was sitting right below the pegboard in the back where the detail area is. And of course they knocked them off, fell inside. We had to use a spare key. Can't find the spare key. All of a sudden, lost car, stolen car. Next thing you know, we're having to tow it to a dealer. It cost $1,000 to get it reprogrammed from somewheres in some other state. So the idea of this, nobody ever realizes the cost until you're the one writing the check for it. And
we have a group of dealers that in 25 spent $242,000 in 14 stores making keys during the year. And our slogan, our tagline is, Eric, do you want to find it or replace it?
Yeah.
And right now, the only option dealers have is call the key truck. And I asked a service director in one store, how many keys do you make a year? And the guy goes, I don't know, not that many. And I'm like, wow. He says, he points out the window. He says, see that orange truck out there? That's here several times a week. And he makes the keys cheaper than I can, so I don't get the business, and it takes me longer to make them. And by the way, there's another thing we haven't talked about. The key machine, a problem. Everybody thinks you buy a key machine, you're fine. The keys are safe, right? But Mike took the keys out at 9 o'clock this morning to demo a car for Eric. Eric saw it, not what he wanted. So Mike gets an emergency call, jumps in his car with the keys to that car from the machine, and goes home. Now, an hour later, in comes another customer, and the salesman goes to the key machine and puts in the number. What does it say? Checked out at 9 this morning by Mike. Where's Mike? And nobody knows. They're running around. It could be, if it's in his pants pocket at home, it's on the dresser, it's in his desk. They just don't get it. I mean, it's like the key machine solves a big problem for the insurance company, which is they can't break in at night and open that thing and steal all the cars. But from the key machine on, and there's some of them that make one of these products like we're talking about in the same arena, but not as robust, but they don't sell them through to the consumer. They don't have what we have, which is we passed all the Google's and all the Apple's tests. So this one thing, when it shows up next to an iPhone, it thinks it's an Apple product. When it shows up next to a Google, it thinks it's a Google product. I mean, it's just an efficiency thing that we have put together both for the dealer, for us, for you, everybody.
Well, I think the clear road is to understand that you guys own the product on the hardware side.
Yes.
And then you own the product on the software side. So this is the first time that you've been able to take a hardware and take a software, put them together. But more importantly, there's really, I'm not going to say there's no competition, because clearly that Bluetooth tracking devices is not like, but at the
They're
same time
evolving.
too, it is evolving. But the idea of the space that you've been in doing this for such a long period of time, and to bring this solution to the market at this time, we can honestly say there's not many of yous that are out there that are doing this. And if anybody is doing it at any close proximity, they're still miles away from where you're at today. So there is this opportunity that you have. And so help me understand, you are very focused on being able to make this product, I'm not going to say affordable, but kind of. And I think that you looked at maybe what the industry was already paying for and what this is. And from what I can tell, there's a gap. There's a big gap to what, if I'm a dealer and I want to put on 1,000 of these things on my vehicles that are on the properties and wherever they're at, there was a normal expense cost of what, on an interior battery device, that you're going to have to spend somewhere upwards over $100+. Like they don't make these internal battery devices for anything less than, am I wrong? Am I right? Tell me more about what you know about this industry.
You are. And the deal with the batteries and the cost is we balanced features and benefits with what we could push price-wise into not just the automotive market, but into the, we talk about medical, we talk about boats, we talk about RVs, we talk about all these different places. You have to be conscious of that. For example, there's a guy who ships engines to race cars, and he sends them in a wooden box, and the engine gets there, and he gets the wooden box back, hopefully. Well, by putting one of these in the wooden box, one, he knows where it is at all times, and we're talking some places $100,000 engines and more. So when I'm at a racetrack and I'm waiting on this engine, I want to know where it's at. And the guy goes, well, it's landed at the airport. That's all I can tell you. They picked it up. So from that standpoint, this guy can put them in, all of them. He's going to charge a guy's buying shipping $100,000 engine overnight to a racetrack. $59 is not going to bug him at all. He can just throw them in, all of them. He gets his boxes back. He knows where they are. So the price and the benefits. Now, the second phase will be a little bit more, but I'm not going to say what's happening to it because it's going to be big. And I'm going to say probably in the $80 range. and
Mm,
it's going to be a shocker
mm,
because, I
mm.
mean, that's all we have to focus on here.
Yeah.
We don't have anything else
Well,
to focus on. Go ahead.
no, I'm just excited for what you're doing. I think that we've been in this business for 20, 25 years. Even all of our businesses, we have tracking devices on every vehicle across every platform that we have vehicles on. And so we depend on these things. We wouldn't be in business if it wasn't for these devices to be able to track our assets. And so it just continues to get more and more affordable. You're taking advantage of technology that's now available to us. And it sounds like you're taking advantage of technology and going to bring some more things to us here in the
Yes.
future that I'm not quite sure what you're doing. But if I know you, because I've been around you for 25 years, you're going to be doing something very special for these guys to make things more
That
affordable
nobody
and
else has
prevent.
done.
Yep. Well, I think that
Okay.
leads us
Also,
into. Go ahead.
this was important. This shocked me. I'm making a presentation to a guy who is a parts and service director for 2 dealerships, and we're in the middle of the service department thing, and he stops and he says, "This is more. We need this in sales." He said, "The problems we're having moving cars between dealerships, guy doesn't know where it is because some salesman came." I mean, that was big. But then he says to me, "How do you hook them up?" And I said, "Well, we've got a ring that goes on here and it clips and you can unclip it." He said, "That isn't going to work for salespeople. They're cagey." He said, "They'll unhook this, take the car off, and bring it back." So he shows me what you have on your electric meter. It's a little piece of wire with plastic on the bottom of it, and you can only cut it. You can't open it, right?
Yep.
So he says, that's what you need to do for the cars. And then I rented a car in Pensacola, and on the key, and I have a picture of it. I'm not going to pull it up here now, but it says $250 for lost keys, and it had a braided steel cable crimped. In other words, you have to cut them to get them off. So what we're doing is we're stopping the guy who says, "I'm going to steal this," but click, click, click. Nah, they don't know. But this thing with the electric meter, little thin piece of wire in the plastic, is brilliant. It doesn't raise our cost at all. I mean, you can buy them for pennies. But
How
that's just
funny.
evolution.
Well, just
I
how
don't know if I
funny
want
that
to
it.
share that with everybody out there.
Well, I love that because I'm glad you did with me because that was one of the things I was thinking
Yes,
about because we're trying to put this on all of our keys for the rental car company.
yes,
And I'm going, well, these guys are just going to, if they
yep.
really want to, they're just going to take it off. How many lessons do we learn from car salesmen? But it's true. You could put those things on there and that makes perfect sense.
Look, we all know how to take this off of this ring. You
Yeah.
open it up, slide it around, and it comes off.
I'm so glad you
But
said
when
that
you
to
put
me.
that parking meter thing with the plastic on there, then it's obvious to the owner somebody cut the cable. It's not like he put it back and everybody's going, "Well, what happened? I don't understand. We got the mileage on here. It's still got the device, but it doesn't say
Mm,
it went anywhere." Now it
mm.
does because it
All right.
shows
So
somebody cut it.
as we start to conclude, let's talk a little bit about what your plans are. What is your intentions? I know that you are already doing millions of dollars worth of business in the States now and doing work globally with some of this stuff. Um, Give me some ideas of what you're planning on doing, where you plan on going. I'm assuming that you're looking for agents. I know that you and I have talked about things out here in the South and Louisiana and our areas, but as far as looking for agents and growing this business in the States, you're trying to do this through agents. You're looking for guys. You're wanting to hire guys. You're wanting to work with
Okay,
guys.
we're
Tell
not
us a little bit.
looking to hire anybody. This is
Okay.
a distributor agent reseller program,
Got
meaning,
it.
let me tell you a big thing. You don't have to buy these to keep them in inventory because in the past, somebody wanted you to buy things and you're thinking, "No, I got to put out $200,000 or $100,000 or $50,000 for a bunch of product." No, you have the ones that you use to demo and an electronic website. And by the way, the orders go directly from the dealer to our manufacturing site. The dealer ships them directly to the dealer, and the dealer pays the manufacturing site. There's no agent in the middle, nothing, no administrator in the middle grabbing the money. And somebody says, "Well, what happened?" So that was another thing that we wanted to do.
Mm,
So
nice.
there's just so many great things that we haven't even done yet, and we don't know about. Just like I told you, getting that service director tell me, "Hey, you need to put these things on there," and I'm going, "Wow, what a
Yeah.
great thing!" Especially with you with all your rental cars,
Yeah. Well,
putting the
there's a lot
cable
of
on
us.
there. Yeah.
Well, I think I'm gonna definitely take what the car salesman from Florida figured out. I'm gonna take advantage of that deal. But I
So
think
you were
the idea.
asking, and I got off track. I'm sorry.
You're
Um,
good, but I think your model is that you're looking for agents to partner with who are in markets throughout the United States, and you're looking to build relationships with those guys to be able to partner with to be able to sell this product, correct?
Correct, and we're also opening up Mexico now.
Nice.
And we had a call from a group in Brazil that wanted 1,000 units for medical equipment. So, I mean, there's just opportunities all over the place, but we're expanding outside of the automotive industry
Yeah.
into other countries as well for
Wow.
automotive, for non-automotive. So just think that there's nothing out there we can't apply this to.
Mm. Well, I guess in conclusion, one of the things and the reasons why I wanted to talk to you about this was one, just to be able to express my gratitude to you. Not many people know our story, but we did meet 25 years ago. We met through a friend. Ironically, at that time, for the people that don't know my story, I had gotten canned from a general manager position in a Lincoln Mercury dealership because of my
Wasn't
pride
your
and my
father's,
ego.
was it?
It wasn't. This was the store that you send your dealer's kid to so you don't work for your dad. You have to go make your own hay with somebody else to prove your value.
Right.
Well, not only did I prove my value, I also proved my ego. And the greatest lesson I ever learned was getting fired from that business. But it put me on my butt, and I didn't quite know what to do at the time. And I remember my first kid was coming, and my wife kept looking at me going, What are we going to do? And I didn't know what we were going to do, but I got a phone call from some guy named Mike Southerland, and he said, I want you to go get a 1099, and I want you to start an LLC, and I want you to go out
Yeah.
and sell these devices." And
And we
I
met in
remember that.
Vegas
Yeah,
at
no,
NADA to finalize.
and I remember at that time, I was not in a good place.
No.
And I had known nothing but selling cars and managing people and leading a business and doing what we did. And I remember you really looking at me and saying that you can do this. And you took me under your wing. You guided me. You invested in me. Me and you would spend time on the road together. You would
Yep.
stop at CVS and you would buy me things to help my breath because I would stink when I was selling things, and you would make sure that but let me tell you what you taught me though, Mike. There were so many things that you taught me from being professional. You taught me about excellence. If you're going to do something, to go all in. You taught me about focus. I remember you telling me, and you used to tell me all the time, you need to stay focused. You need to stay
Yep.
together. You need to stop at every dealership on the right-hand side of the road, which today I've learned that lesson has paid dividends because I've been stopping at the
Yes.
right-hand side of the road dealership for my entire life because I've never not lift up that rock because you just never know who you're going to meet. You never know who you're
Exactly.
going to be around. And so therefore there has been so many of those moments. And I think you've invested into me to get me to the place that I'm at. I'm grateful for our relationship. I brought it up earlier, but you are a cancer survivor.
Yep.
Congratulations. That has been recent here.
Just
You've been going
in
through a.
November, I got cleared. I'm still doing chemo, did one 2 days ago. So thank you. And it is important because I'm 78 and surviving stage 4 metastasized is a miracle.
Mm. Well, not only that, but just to kind of give you guys an idea of other things about Mike, but you also were in a hospital for I don't know how long. I remember when you had that blood transfusion or whatever was going on with that deal. You had a blood
It's
disease
called
internal
blood
that you
poisoning.
blood poisoning. So you had that going on. You nearly died. If you didn't die,
Yep.
I think you epitomize what hard work looks like. You epitomize what professionalism looks like. You epitomize what, one of my old mentors passed away, Greg Manuel, but, he was your age. And he would tell me all the time, son, you just got to keep on going. You just got to keep on. never stop. And he said, and I'm always been one of those guys that I love to work and I love doing what I do. And when he made it very clear that I'll be doing this for the rest of my life, it was just so
Well,
easy
here
to
I am.
understand because I'm watching you do it,
Yeah.
living your best life. You're
Yep.
married with Miss Patty. You've got Pablo. You have this family that you're now
Yep.
with this business, and it's so impressive to me. So one last question before we let go, and you and I have talked about this the last time I was in San Miguel visiting with you, and I'd like for you to really express to us this perspective. I asked you, I said, Mike, if you could tell me one thing that's probably the best quality that has lasted for 78 years, what is that one quality that you would encourage others to receive, to really understand, to have the right perspective that's made you who you are today
It's
and got
one
you to where
thing.
you're at? One thing. What
It's
is it?
one I don't even have to think about it. It's passion. In other words, if
Mm,
you're just going out there and making calls and hoping to make money, you're going to change quickly or you're just not going to make any money. And I think that one of the problems I have is my enthusiasm for this sometimes doesn't relate to people. It's like, you know, how do you feel this way about it? Well, it's like having a kid. This is like a kid. You birthed it, you nurtured it up, you sell it. So, I mean, it's all about believing and having the enthusiasm, because when you ride with somebody and they go, "Oh, this guy's half asleep when we're doing things." I mean, you gotta show them. And I used to have a sign above my door. It said, "Don't tell me, show me."
show
And there
me.
was another one that I put on the wall, and this was at Easy Care, was it had two targets up on the wall. One of them said ready, fire, aim, and it had bullet holes all over the wall and everything. The other one said ready, aim, fire, and it had one bullet in the bullseye. So
Mm.
those are the kind of things that, make a difference. I mean, maybe I've just been lucky. And hopefully I continue to be lucky. And I tell you how I would really feel lucky is if you took on Louisiana, Alabama, and Mississippi. That's a
Well,
challenge.
and now you know why we're on this call. So, for that, Mike, I want to say thank you for taking this time. I want to say
You're
thank
welcome.
you for what you have done and the investment that you made. I'm hoping that whoever's listening to this and any dealers that will be listening to this or any of our friends to learn more about what's going on, they can reach out to you directly. We'll put something inside of this to where they can find it. But linkandlocate.tech is the website. I want to say congratulations to you and your team, to Pablo, to Alex, to you, to Miss Patty, to everybody down there, and even for your manufacturer that you working with that I got a chance to visit
They're
with.
great.
Those guys are amazing as well. So you
Yes.
formulated a team that you should be very proud of. And so thank you for the time that you've made today to spend with me. Thank you for the time that we've been together for the last 20 years and really appreciate you, Mike. Thank you.
We appreciate each other, and thank you very much for you taking the time. And remember, Louisiana, Mississippi, and Alabama.
Let's go. Not G-O, but Geaux. Let's go.
Okay, Cajun. Thank you very much. We appreciate
Have a
it.
good day. Thank you.